Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we've really waded through a lot of material for you.
We certainly have. Government reports, detailed analyses.
All sorts. And the idea is to bring you the key takeaways on 5 really distinct topics that are, well, making waves right now.
Think of it as your shortcut to getting up to speed.
Exactly. A way to be well-informed efficiently, maybe with a few surprising bits thrown in.
And we're covering quite a range today. We'll be looking at U.S. visa issues for Indian students.
The state of museums in India.
Then jumping to AI with a robot marathon in China.
The whole NVIDIA and U.S.-China tech situation.
And finally rounding off with the U.S.-Iran nuclear discussions.
Right. 5 distinct areas, all pretty significant. So let's dive straight into the first one. These visa revocations affecting Indian students in the U.S.
Okay. Yeah, this has caused quite a stir.
It seems straightforward on the surface, maybe just admin stuff, but I suspect there's more to it.
There usually is. To really get a handle on it, we should probably clarify some terms first.
Good idea.
So, SEVIS. Have you heard of that?
Vaguely. Student system, right.
Exactly. Student and Exchange Visitor Information System. It's basically a web system the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, uses.
Tracking.
Yeah, for tracking F&M visa students. It's all managed through ICE Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
Okay, SEVIS. Got it. And visa revocation, what does that mean in practice?
It's pretty serious. It means the visa is declared void, invalid.
So you can't enter? Or if you're already there?
You might have to leave. It prevents entry or stay.
Ouch. And this continuous vetting thing.
That just means they don't stop checking after the visa is issued. It's ongoing monitoring.
Always watching, basically.
In a way, yes. We should also quickly mention that the J visa, the Exchange Visitor Program, that's different from the main student F1 visa.
Right. F1 is for study. J1 is more cultural or educational exchange.
Precisely. And the key players here are the Department of State, which issues the visas initially.
And then DHS and ICE, who handle the oversight and, well, the revocations.
Correct. And you have to see this against the backdrop of the India-U.S. relationship, too. There are dialogues on education, mobility pacts. It's all connected.
Okay, so we know the terms, the players, but why is this such a big deal right now? What's the broader significance?
We'll look at the numbers first. There are over 200,000 Indian students in the U.S. That's huge.
Wow, yeah.
They contribute a lot economically, culturally. It's a big part of the India-U.S. connection. So when you see revocations happening, it can create a trust issue.
You start hearing stories, people get worried. Is it fair? Is there discrimination?
Exactly. Those questions come up. And beyond the individuals, it impacts India's image, its soft power.
Could lead to a brain drain if people feel unwelcome or uncertain?
Potentially, yes. Plus, there's a geopolitical angle. The U.S. wants India as a partner, partly thinking about China. This kind of friction isn't helpful.
And just basic human rights, due process for the students caught up in this.
Absolutely fundamental. They need clarity and fair treatment.
So what's the way forward then? How can this be addressed?
Diplomacy is key. India's Ministry of External Affairs, the MEA, and the embassies need to follow up on these cases. Really push for answers and fair process.
Provide support for the students.
Definitely. Legal aid, helplines to the consulates, that's crucial. Maybe even strengthen the bilateral agreements around student mobility.
Make the rules clearer.
And maybe do more awareness programs before students leave India. Make sure they understand compliance.
Like know the rules inside out.
Right. And improve digital channels for help, like the MADAD portal for grievances. Make it easier to get assistance.
Makes sense. Addressing the immediate problem and trying to prevent future ones. If someone wants official info on U.S. visa rules,
the State Department site, travel.state.gov, is the place to go.
Okay, good resources. Let's shift gears now. Topic 2, Indian museums. Maybe not as headline-grabbing, but important for culture, right?
Hugely important, and facing some pretty significant challenges.
Like what are we talking about here?
Well, first, just to be clear, a museum conserves, researches, displays things. A curator manages the collection. Museology is the study of it all.
Right, basics covered.
One big challenge is narrative biases. Whose story gets told?
Yeah. Does it feel like only certain histories are highlighted?
Often, yes. Elite histories, colonial perspectives might dominate, while other voices, regional, tribal, marginalized, get left out. This connects to decolonizing museums.
Trying to correct those old biases.
Exactly. Re-examining collections, how they're interpreted, where they came from.
So what are some key things to know about the Indian museum scene today, like major places or initiatives?
Well, you have the big ones. National Museum in Delhi, Indian Museum in Kolkata, Salarjung in Hyderabad. There are government schemes too, like the Museum Grant Scheme or Adopt a Heritage.
Trying to support them financially.
Yes, and improve infrastructure. Then there's the National Mission on Monuments and Antiquities, NMA for documentation, and key bodies like ASI, the Archaeological Survey, and IGNCA, the Arts Center.
And concepts like intangible heritage. What's that?
That's stuff like traditions, performing arts, skills, not just physical objects or artifacts. Ethnographic collections focus on specific cultural groups.
Okay. So beyond the basics, why should we care about the crisis in museums? What are the wider issues?
It's about representation, fundamentally. If museums only show one part of the story, they aren't serving everyone. Accessibility is another big one.
Like literally getting in or understanding the exhibits.
Both. Poor lighting, confusing layouts, lack of multilingual support, it limits engagement. And digitization often lags behind international standards.
Meaning less access online?
Yeah, restricting reach. Funding is often inadequate, and bureaucracy can stifle innovation, but the potential is huge.
For tourism, national pride.
All of that. Cultural soft power. Museums can be amazing assets if managed well.
So it sounds like a shakeup is needed. What could be done?
Well, maybe decentralizing governance, giving local communities more say.
And actively bringing in those marginalized histories you mentioned.
Absolutely. Tribal histories, Dalit perspectives, women's stories, making space for them. Investing in digital tech is vital too. AR, VR, better online collections, audio guides.
Training for staff.
Crucial. Needs skilled curators, conservators, educators, and involving the community in deciding what's collected and how it's presented.
Makes them feel more connected if people want to learn more.
Live History India often has good stuff. Rajya Sabha TV archives might too. Look up India's draft museum policy from 2017 or the NTIO's Culture Sector Roadmap 2022.
Okay, great pointers. Now for something completely different. Robot marathon in China. This sounds wild.
It is pretty wild. A humanoid robot finishing a half marathon. It's a real marker for AI and robotics.
Humanoid robot.
Yeah.
So looks like a person?
Generally, yes. Mimics the human form. And this involves AI, artificial intelligence, making machines think like humans.
And machine learning.
That's a type of AI where the machine learns from data. Autonomous mobility is key here too. The robot moving on its own.
Without remote control.
Right. And robotics in sports simulation. Well, this wasn't a simulation.
Haha. No kidding. What was the robot called? And where was this race?
The robot is Tiangong Ultra. And the event was the E-Town Humanoid Robot Half Marathon in Beijing.
Tiangong Ultra. Okay. What does this feat tell us about, well, the bigger picture in tech?
It's definitely part of the global tech race. China is making huge strides showing off its AI capabilities.
And these robots, they could have other uses, right? Not just running.
Oh, absolutely. This is dual-use technology.
Yeah.
Think disaster response, elder care, but also potentially military applications, logistics, maybe reconnaissance.
That raises questions about where India stands, doesn't it?
It does. India is strong in software, but maybe needs more focus on the hardware side, the actual robotics R&D, compared to China.
Beyond the tech race, what are the societal things we should be thinking about?
Well, the big one is jobs, isn't it? If robots can do more physical tasks.
What happens to human workers?
Exactly. Potential disruption, but maybe also new efficiencies. And then there's ethics and safety.
Autonomous robots walking around. What are the rules? Who's
Yeah.
responsible if something goes wrong?
Crucial questions. We need regulations, clear lines of accountability, especially as they get more capable.
So for India to, keep up or even lead, what's needed?
Investment, for sure.
Yeah.
Public-private AI labs focused on robotics. Building the talent pipeline through education.
Training people specifically for this?
Yes. And collaborating internationally with leaders in the field. We need clear AI policies and regulations too.
Set the ground rules.
And maybe showcase our own innovations more. Events, expos to build momentum.
Where can people follow this, robotics and AI news?
India's Ministry of Electronics and IT, MIghty, is relevant.
Mm-hmm.
NEIKI IOG has papers on AI strategy. Globally, the Robotics Industry Association.
And maybe tech news channels?
Yeah, BBC Click, Reuters often cover this. And UNESCO's AI ethics recommendation is worth reading for the global framework.
Okay, topic 4. NVIDIA and its role in the U.S.-China tech Cold War. This feels really central.
It absolutely is. It's amazing how one company, NVIDIA, known for gaming chips, right,
GPUs, yeah.
has become so critical because those same chips are perfect for AI.
So let's define terms. Semiconductor.
That's the basic material for microchips. Silicon. usually.
AI chips,
Specialized semiconductors, optimized for AI calculations. Much faster for that kind of work.
tech Cold War.
That's a rivalry, mainly U.S. versus China, in key tech areas. AI, quantum, 5G, chips.
Export control.
Governments restricting sales of sensitive tech to certain countries for national security.
And NVIDIA is fabless.
Right. They design the chips, but another company actually manufactures them. TSMC in Taiwan makes a lot of them.
So NVIDIA designs these powerful AI chips in the U.S., but the manufacturing might be elsewhere. And the U.S. government is involved how?
They've brought in things like the CHIPS and Science Act. Big money to boost chip production in the U.S.
Trying to be less reliant on overseas manufacturing.
Exactly. And India's doing something similar, right? The India Semiconductor Mission, ISM, and PLI schemes for electronics.
Trying to build our own chip capacity, because groups like ISRO and DRDO need secure supplies too.
Absolutely critical for strategic sectors.
So why is this focus on NVIDIA and restricting China's access so significant globally?
Because semiconductors are now like the new oil, almost.
Yeah.
Strategically vital. Controlling access to advanced chips like NVIDIA's AI chips is seen as key to tech leadership and national security.
So the U.S. is trying to slow China down, especially in AI that could have military uses.
That seems to be the primary motivation. And this puts countries like India in a tricky spot.
Balancing relationships with the U.S. and China while trying to build our own capabilities.
Precisely. It also highlights how vulnerable global supply chains are. Chip shortages can cause huge economic problems.
And it's all part of techno-nationalism, using tech as a geopolitical weapon.
That's a good way to put it. Technology is now a core part of national power and strategy.
So, given all this, what's India's best move in semiconductors?
Striving for strategic autonomy seems wise. Building domestic capacity, yes, but also through partnerships.
With countries like the U.S., Taiwan, Japan.
Those seem like logical partners. Investing heavily in R&D and skilling is non-negotiable. Using our I-8s, CDAC, Samir,
Maybe regional alliances, like
Yeah.
the Chip 4 idea.
exploring those options, maybe even India-led initiatives. And as everything gets connected, strong data security and cybersecurity laws are essential for these chip-driven systems.
And making sure semiconductor policy links up with our goals in AI and quantum.
Needs to be a coherent strategy. It's all interconnected.
Where can people find out more about NVIDIA, the policies, India's mission?
NVIDIA's own website, obviously. For U.S. export rules, the Depth of Commerce's Bureau of Industry and Security.
News channels that cover business and geopolitics.
CNBC often does. UPSC CSE Decode is good for the Indian context. India's Electronics Policy 2020, summaries of the U.S. CHIPS Act are online, and the India Semiconductor Mission site.
Okay, loads to look into there. Final topic, U.S.-Iran talks. The nuclear issue is back on the table.
It seems so. Renewed discussions, revisiting that very complex chessboard.
Let's get the terms straight. JCPOA.
Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. That's the formal name for the 2015 Iran nuclear deal.
The deal where Iran limits its nuclear program for sanctions relief.
That was the core idea, yes. Sanctions are the penalties used to enforce compliance financial trade restrictions.
IAEA.
International Atomic Energy Agency, the UN's nuclear watchdog, they do the inspections,
And uranium enrichment.
increasing the concentration of the fissile isotope, U-235,
Yeah.
needed for power reactors, but also at high levels for weapons.
So who was originally in the JCPOA?
Iran on one side and the P5+1 on the other.
P5+1 being.
The 5 permanent UN Security Council members, US, UK, France, Russia, China, plus Germany.
And the IAEA verifies compliance. How does India fit into this picture?
India has interests. Chabahar port in Iran is important for trade routes, energy imports from the region, and general regional stability.
And the difference between civilian and military nuclear programs is key here, right?
Absolutely crucial. Iran insists its program is peaceful for energy. Others worry about potential weaponization.
So what's the wider strategic importance of these renewed talks? Why now?
Well, Iran's nuclear progress since the U.S. left the deal in 2018 has caused a lot of concern. It creates instability in West Asia.
Affecting neighbors and potentially global security.
Definitely. For India specifically, it impacts relations with Iran, balancing those ties with U.S. pressure, energy security, the Chabahar investment.
And the U.S. trying to talk again. That's a policy shift from the previous administration.
Yes, the Biden administration is trying diplomacy again after Trump withdrew the U.S. from the JCPOA. It also puts a spotlight on the NPT, the Non-Proliferation Treaty.
How fragile it is.
It shows the challenges in preventing the spread of nuclear weapons while allowing peaceful use.
Given India's stakes, what's a sensible path for India?
Maintaining that balanced diplomacy is key. Talking to Iran, talking to the U.S., talking to Israel and Gulf states. Strategic autonomy.
Not taking sides, but protecting our interests.
Essentially, yes. Supporting peaceful resolutions through multilateral forums like the UN.
Keep investing in Chabahar if possible.
If sanctions allow, yes. It's strategically important. Diversifying energy sources is also smart, reducing reliance on any one volatile region.
And generally supporting international rules and institutions.
Advocating for strengthening them, yes. A stable, rules-based order is in India's interest.
Where can listeners follow developments on this?
The U.S. State Department website for U.S. policy. India's MEA website for Indian statements.
News sources.
DW News, Study IQ's IR series often have good analysis. You can find the original JCPOA text online. Think tank papers, like from IDSA on India-Iran relations, are useful too.
And maybe reports on India's energy strategy from Niti Aayog for context.
That could provide useful background on the energy security angle.
Well, that wraps up our 5 topics. We've covered a lot of ground.
We really have. From student visas, museums, robots, chips, to nuclear diplomacy. Quite the spectrum.
Hopefully it gives everyone listening a solid overview and some key insights into these complex issues.
That's the aim. A quick way to get informed with maybe a few new perspectives.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. Considering how linked everything is, tech, diplomacy, education, how might a big shift in one area, say, that U.S.-China tech fight, how might that ultimately ripple out and affect maybe opportunities for Indian students wanting to study tech abroad, or even shape how India develops its own tech capabilities back home?
That's a really interesting question. The interconnectedness is definitely something to keep thinking about.
Food for thought. We hope you found this deep dive useful.
Thanks for joining us. We encourage you to reflect and maybe dig deeper into anything that caught your interest.